Don't know what's wrong, but something isn't right. I feel like
Hey stars, Rockstar here, and I am here to share another true crime and historical video with you. Um, Today's topic is not part of the I Survived series. This video will actually be a new series called Black Lives Matter, where I will chronicle past and present atrocities committed against black individuals and black America. Before we get into this video, remember you can order custom hats, t-shirts, mugs, plates, and embroidered products and patches, or Rockstar Love and Rockstar Mentality memorabilia and merchandise. There's a link in the description to our Facebook and Insta stores. With that said, let's get into our video. So before we get into this tragic story, I want to give you as much details and background on the Wrightsville location of the Negro Boys Industrial School as possible. Some of you may have heard of this. A lot of you may not have. I mean, this was a new story to me, and this happened all the way in 1955. But anyway, Wrightsville Negro Boys Industrial School was a reform school established in 1927, and it dissolved in 1968. The school had two other locations, one in Jefferson County and the other in Wrightsville, which are both in Arkansas, or Arkansas as some people like to call it. The school's mission was to place children who were otherwise will be sent to adult prisons to labor on their working cotton farm. But in reality, as stated by a former superintendent by the name of L.R. Gaines, most of the boys were in for minor, like very minor offenses, which we'll get into that later. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, it was said that this tragedy was actually murder. Some call it a tragedy, some call it a tragic accident, but a lot of people speculate that this was murder. Many people then, and even now to this day, still believe that this is murder, including myself. After I researched and everything, I mean, I believe it too. So we'll get into that and see, and you can comment below and let me know what you guys think. Was it murder? Was it an accident? Was it just a tragic event that nobody, let me know what you think. The theory is, and you can find this in two books about this event written by two male individuals trying to uncover and expose this Arkansas government cover-up, one of which is a brother of one of the victims from this story. Yes, he was the brother of Lindsay. Two years before this tragic incident, then Governor Orville Fabus, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Orville Fabus was against integration and fought hard to keep Arkansas segregated. As stated before, many believe that this was a catalyst, an early catalyst for these horrific murders. Fabus was historically known for the Little Rock school segregation fight, and people believe that segregation fight led up to the murder because he was trying to get back at the president and at the black community, and we'll talk more about that as well. What it was, the Little Rock school segregation fight, in which the all-white school Central High School in Little Rock was to be integrated when 9 black students were supposed to attend the 1958 to 1959 school year. But an irate governor called in the National Guard to prevent those 9 from attending school. But when President Eisenhower caught wind of this, President Eisenhower overturned the governor's decision and ordered the guardsmen out of Arkansas. And in retaliation, the governor closed the school for the 1958 to 1959 school year. referred to now as the lost year. A lot of people refer to it as the lost year because he closed school down for an entire year just to avoid black people going to school with white kids. Um, by January of that same year, 1959, the governor visited the school and saw how deplorable the conditions of the school were. Most of the boys were in rags for weeks at a time. They they didn't have socks during the winter months. They were crammed into these small, deplorable conditions. In 1959, there were 69 boys enrolled at the school from the ages of 13 to 17. 13 to 17, that was the age range of the boys there at this school. And they slept in dorms. And the dorms were cold. They smelled horrible. Like, could you imagine walking into a really bad nursing home, and as soon as it hits you in the face, you just like, it just, it takes you aback. You're like, what is that urine smell? What is that feces smell? Like, it just smelled bad. The conditions were terrible. Not only were they in rags most of the time, but they had this 30-gallon tub of water where all the boys, all 69 boys, had to wash up with the same stagnant water in that 30-gallon bucket. Everybody used that same water to wash up. And that wasn't even an everyday occurrence. Everybody did not wash up every day. So, not only that, they were forced to sleep in small, overcrowded rooms where they were only about a foot from each other when they were even sleeping. They were padlocked into the rooms at night. So they had to urinate and defecate into buckets in the room, as no one stood guard to let them out in the middle of the night to even use the bathroom. So you couldn't, just get up in the middle of the night, go to the restroom. You had to go in those buckets. And the smell, like I said, from the dorms was nauseating. And even seeing all of this firsthand, the governor was not moved enough to do anything about it. Not at all. In fact, when he saw this, he mentioned like, oh, this is terrible. They need help. They need new boilers, new heat. They need new stoves. They need new everything. He went on to cut the budget by $77,100. So you go to this school, you visit, you see how deplorable the conditions are. It's not something you would want to live in or send your kids, but you cut the budget knowing that they need the help. Okay. So, most of the boys, like I said, were there for petty offenses that their white peers would never be arrested for. Others were due to homelessness or divorce. Their parents got divorced and they had nowhere to go. Some of these offenses included stealing, crazy things like little things like stealing hubcaps, pranks. One boy was there for soaping windows on Halloween. I don't really know what that is, but I'm assuming that's a prank that back in that time used to do on Halloween. I guess would like put soap all over somebody's windows so they couldn't see out of them or something. I don't know. And they say he was doing this to houses on Halloween. And that's what he was arrested for. Another boy, he was there because he was riding a white boy's bike. And when approached, the mother of the white boy said that it was fine, that he was riding that bike. She was okay with it. Like, it wasn't an issue. But for whatever reason, the police felt like it was an issue, and the government did too, and they arrested this boy. And that boy was 13 years old. The 13-year-old who borrowed that bike wound up being one of the ones who perished in this incident. Yes, he was one of the ones who perished. 13 years old for riding a bike. He did absolutely nothing wrong, as most of them didn't. So on March 5th, 1959, the boys All 69 prepared for bed in the dorm, where they were all locked in by padlock into the dorms. Around 4 a.m., Arthur Ray Poole, who was 16, an inmate sergeant with minor responsibilities and minor responsibility roles, he smelled smoke. He smelled smoke. And the boys quickly realized they were in trouble. Like, it didn't take long for everybody to realize they were in trouble. I'm sure once the first one smelled smoke, the next one was like, and he let somebody else know, like, hey, do you smell that? And then when the next one confirms, like, yeah, panic set in. And these are not adult men. These are boys, 13 to 17. So, of course, there's no adult there. They cannot get out. They're panicking. And not only was escape nearly impossible, because the only two exits that were there were padlocked and no one was around to open them. They also had heavy gauge wire, mesh wire on the window. So imagine, all the doors are shut, locked, padlocked. You smell smoke. You can probably feel the heat starting to come. You're panicking. The little ones are crying. You don't know what to do. Everybody's running back and forth crazy. Nobody's actually coming up with any good plans. I just could not imagine being a child trying to save myself in that situation. So, another inmate sergeant, 16-year-old O.F., they called him Charlie, o.t.meadows, broke one window. I don't know who broke the other one, but there finally were two different windows that were broken that allowed 48 of the 69 boys that were trapped in a burning dorm to escape. The other 21 weren't so lucky. When after the fire, they found them in one corner of the dorm, I guess, like opposite the windows. I guess they were trying to, get away from the fire and stay as, far away from it as possible. They found them piled in the corner, all, stacked on top of one another. Everybody was packed in this corner, just piled up on top of one another. And so, like I said, 48 of the 69 did get out and did survive this fire. And like I said, 21 weren't so lucky. 14 of the 21 boys were so badly burned that their remains were unrecognizable and undistinguishable from each other. Like, you could not tell who was who, especially since they probably were melting and disintegrating, turning into ash, and because they were piled up on top of each other, so the bodies were just melting and merging into one another, so you couldn't tell who was who. They were unrecognizable and undistinguishable. That's how badly burned they were. That's 14 of the 21 that did lose their lives. With that, the state of Arkansas planned a collective funeral service and buried the 14 boys in a mass unmarked grave at the Haven Rest Cemetery. The other 7 were buried in a private service by their own families. So, 7 of them did get a private service, but their families had to absorb the cost for that. You would think the state would just pay for everybody, whether you wanted, a mass service or not, or a private service. I feel like that's the only reason some of the people did go with the mass service, because they felt like, they didn't have the money to pay for this funeral. And the only way that the state of Arkansas was going to pay is if they had this, collective funeral service. And while at the cemetery, they were not allowed to view the interment of their boys. They were told that and then after all of that, after they left, because they'd never seen coffins or anything going to the ground, they were told that their loved ones' remains were wrapped in newspaper and then buried in this mass unmarked grave. The families in the cemetery were also told that they would have a headstone, but the headstones were never placed. We don't even know if they were ever purchased. They were supposed to be purchased by the state of Arkansas, but that didn't happen. So after some time, the story was local news for a while, but it quickly was overshadowed by the ongoing civil rights movement at the time. Around that time, this happened in '59. The '60s on up was a pivotal time for the civil rights movement. So this kind of was overshadowed by that. And then it was in the South, the Jim Crow South, and we all know that even if the civil rights movement wasn't going on, this wouldn't have been national news. This wouldn't have been at the forefront of everything, because for most black people, they never are. No matter how big their story is, they are never, put above white people, or it is just really sad. It's really sad. And history shows that what I'm saying is true. Like, they don't get the attention that they should when something like this happens. And the crazy thing now, ironically, the place where the school sat, where it once sat, is now, ironically, the Arkansas Department of Corrections Wrightsville unit. So it's still like a jail. It's still like a jail there. So, and at the station, there is no plaque, there's no marker commemorating the boys' memories, their lives, their death, nothing there that said that the school was there, they once lived there, they died there, nothing there that says what happened. And that was the case for 60 almost 60 years. For 60 years, until relatives, especially the brother of 50-year-old victim Lindsey Cross, Frank Lawrence, until they stepped in and they said that they wanted to have something there, commemorating this this loss, this tragic event. So finally, April 25th, 2019, which was just a little over a year ago, they finally did get a monument at the police station. It is a large rock with a bronze plate in the middle with all 21 names of the victims who perished in this industrial school. So all 21 victims are there. I do want to name them and give you their ages so you can, get an idea of who was there, who died, and just to give them a little respect. Amos Geis, and I pray that I'm pronouncing these names right. If I'm not, I'm so sorry, and I do apologize. If any family is out there that want to comment or want to be interviewed, please come through. Email me, comment, let me know something. Amos Geis, 16. He was one of the ones who had a private service. Lindsey Cross, 14 years old. And like I said, his brother, Frank Lawrence, was one of the ones who was really fighting. And so was Amos' sister, Audrey. His sister, too, was fighting for a plaque or something so people can know their names. Charles L. Thomas, 15. Frank Barnes, 15. R.D. Brown, 16. Jesse Carpenter, Jr., 16. Joe Crittenden, 16. John Daniels, 16. Willie G. Horner, 16. Roy Chester Powell, 16. Cecil Preston, 17. Carl E. Thornton, 15. Johnny Tilson, 16. Edward Tolson, Jr., 15. Charles White, 15. Now, though all of those I named were the 14 that were in the mass graves. The first one I said, like I said, had a private service. And the next few that I'm going to read also had a private service as well. And that's William Piaget, 13. o.t.meadows. And that's the one with the bike incident I told you about that was only there for riding a white boy's bike. He was 13 years old. 13. o.t.meadows, Henry Daniels 15, John Alfred George 15, Roy Hedgewood 15, and William Lee Williams 15. Those are all the names. And as far as I know, the grave site is still unmarked. With the 14 boys that are in there, as far as I know, it's still unmarked. And that's unfortunate. That's really sad to say. I hope maybe we can all get together, put some money up and get a headstone. The community can get a headstone to get these boys some closure and an actual burial. Actually, Mr. Lawrence, Frank Lawrence, he's trying to get the rights to get his brother exhumed so he can give him a real funeral, a real service that he deserves. And to close out, I'm going to need all my stars. If you like this video, please show your support by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And if you do subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notifications so you don't miss any videos. Right now, I don't have an upload schedule. So, show your support. Let me know that you like watching these videos so I can make more of them and make them a little faster. Like I said, if you do, just like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you thought about this story. Let me know what you'd like me to cover. Give me some suggestions. And always remember, do what makes you feel like a rock star. I know I do every day.